Hey guys, welcome and welcome back to Sailor Readings. Let's take a deep breath in and then out. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing really good. I had a wonderful birthday, and introspectively, I've been trying to post more intentionally by still keeping up with my schedule. But Friday, I had a birthday dinner, so I couldn't record and post, and so I am doing so today. I feel really good, and I'm learning to integrate positivity into a default setting. Into how I think, how I push thoughts through, how I receive thoughts, and how we alchemize them in a more positive setting and create and cultivate something in my mind that's more conducive to a beautiful garden versus a dungeon. I don't want my brain to resemble prison, and so I try to create a home within my own mind and get into some semblance of routine of just integrating positivity. That being said, a recovering catastrophizing individual, as a recovering catastrophizing individual, I'm also learning to have compassion within that part of myself that still carries that load and carries that mindset, because it takes a very long time to rewire your brain and to accept energies and negativity that occurs in life, things that are just without your control. And I think a lot of times we like to confuse what is not out of your control and equate that to negativity, but that's not necessarily true. So thank you guys for tuning back in. A very long intro, but that is within the realms and the depths of which I'm really going into for this reading. I'm still in the I in God series, and we're talking about sexuality today, as well as divine counterpart and dissipating shame and allowing all parts of yourself to exist and accept as you carry forward onto the next part of your life. So, I am queer, and a lot of times that had bred a lot of confusion within my own self and others for sure, but mainly myself. But being so, I never thought it would be such a detrimental part of my identity in my late teens to early 20s. And now that I'm 27, it it doesn't matter as much. Not that it doesn't matter as much, but it doesn't matter at all. And what I mean by that is that the totality of who I am doesn't reflect any fears I may have towards my sexuality. Boom. There's a spirit that visited me the other night, and it was really just a spirit of sexual trauma and its relation to queerness, because a lot of times we do not talk about it, and when we do, we like to generalize, I would say, that, oh, if you are queer, you must have gone through some sexual trauma. But straight people have also gone through some sexual trauma, so it's not really about that. But we can't ignore that, because then we also have the generalization of it's a choice and and all these other different things. Everything carries from individuals to individuals. So however your journey of sexuality was, that is your journey, right? That can't be defined by a stat or by others and how others view your sexual identity. And for me, that spirit was kind of just the confirmation that my revelation of my queerness really came about, I would say, prior and during and after being sexually assaulted. And prior, it was more of an identity of humanness, just me existing as a human and not seeing myself as a blank canvas, really, not seeing myself as anything like neither a woman, a man, or anything like that, or even attracted to this and that and the third. I understood love to be arbitrary, and just a generalization of non and even with romantical feelings to just simply be feelings. I had never really associated them to the social construct, of course, because I was a child. At one point, I didn't even know I was black or that I was a girl. I understood what parts of me made me feminine and what parts of masculinity lived within me, but I never attributed it to my worth and my, all of that was not even into question until I got assaulted. And then it became, I need to reclaim my power back. And that was my obsession in the beginning of me kind of like being so obsessed with bi-curiosity and bisexuality and lesbianism and all these beautiful things, but in such a wrong way because I was so in search of control. And it created an addiction in me that I still struggle with, but not to the extent of before, thanks to therapy and just like lots of love and compassion for myself. And now, actually, this is something where I'm not even at a crossroads where I would need to make a decision. I've already made my decision, but leaving that addiction behind me so I can see women as women, men as men, everybody as their individual selves, as I accept myself individually as well. So the reading was it's quite intimate, right? I think some of you in the collective, whatever, can probably relate to this. And basically, it brought a lot of shame of being attracted to men, and then also a discomfort with my attraction to men that I've disassociated so much that I sometimes don't connect to it unless I am in the physical act or when I am confronted by a man I am really attracted to. And then women wise, it's kind of the same thing, but it's less because it's less. I'm not gonna lie, it's less. That's why I say queer and not bi, and not gay or lesbian for me, because I cannot put those mentals of identification on myself. Because my attraction to women have been really through trauma and trauma only. And there's been parts of me that has already like accepted the trauma and the sexual assault that women have, that I have experienced with women. But then again, also, like, I'm also dissecting my mommy issues and my mother wounds. And the more I heal, the more I realize I'm queer. I am not those other things. And that's okay. Sometimes I envy those who seem to have passed the hurdle of shame, but at the same time, I can't because I've experienced it as well. So I do not envy anyone about that. But yeah, the spirit was just to go back to what the spirit was saying as well. So the spirit was kind of like, people might call it a demon, but it was just a wounded soul or a wounded soul that, it's ancient, right? These kind of spirits have wounded souls that concrete, come on, how do you say that in English? But that like concretely become spirits of mantles and basically walk among us as these entities, right? Because they carry so much of what they couldn't have moved on from. And it's ancestral as well. So it's like, it's within bloodlines, it's within humanity. the bloodline of humanity, by the way, not just the bloodline of like the separation of humans via sex and or race, ethnicity, culture, etc. Like it transcends that. And it was just collectively like a spirit of mourning, like mourning innocence, mourning the innocence of sex and the sacredness of sex, and finding ways to, and it was explaining how it had to find ways to love itself, to love others after being violated. And maybe that was the first case of the first person or the first human to ever be violated by another, and that is what that entity is, right? I don't know, but that is definitely a familiar spirit to me. Very familiar, to the point where I have to continuously release it out of my pain body and my body through somatic healing. That being said, I think some of you really do and could benefit from somatic healing. And I don't know how to say this, but not to burst anybody's bubble within this realm of industry, but you don't actually need to pay anyone to help you with that. You have to just be in tune and to trust your body as much as you can and listen to what it needs in the moment. If you need to lay down, lay down. You need to eat, eat. Somatic healing is all within the presence of the body, connecting not just to the mind, not just to the heart, but to your soul. So you have to be able to listen to your body and listen to what it says it needs in the moment. If it needs little taps and words of affirmations, or just a touch of your warmth, of your sex, sexe, by the way, then that's what it needs. If it needs a hug, not just from you, but from somebody else, that is what it needs. So you just have to learn to listen to it. And I think sometimes we get carried away in the spiritual realm of always wanting to get better and heal, that we forget that we are our first responder, because we are the ones, like even a first responder that's outside of yourself, like a paramedic will have to ask you, hey, what are your symptoms? And only you can give those symptoms. So that's something that you have to pay attention to, and to be not self-aware, but self-aware in a way of like, like too much of that hustle mindset. But you need to be aware. You need to be present with yourself and aware with your body. And yeah, like, anyways, just to finish my thought. So yeah, that was kind of me mourning and letting go of that spirit, because that spirit had been my companion for so long. And I no longer need that spirit around me in the future that I have now, because I believe in the future that I wanted and I've always wanted for myself as a child. And although I doubt it and I question it, I know that there's such a deep knowing within my heart, for the man that I call my husband, the man that I will be with. And it's interesting because it's like all parts of me are just have always been healing towards that, and now it feels more and more concrete within myself. Yeah, my pain body still struggles with letting go of this said spirit, because queerness as an identity was my mental an idol that I didn't even know was an idol until I kind of had to take a step back from the queer community, and I realized, oh no, it's definitely an idol. And it's not one of those religious things of like none shall be idols above God, but it is just, but that is, but that is a word still, even if you are not religious. That is a word that's super important. And yeah, and I think there just needs to be more healing within the community as well, to accept that those are factors within how we do identify sexually, and what we do gravitate towards sexually, and what we do gravitate towards with an attraction, without shame, without guilt, and without judging, but just with full compassion and understanding of where all of it comes from. Because unfortunately it does come from pain and pain bodies and trauma, trauma erasure, within the community, but also within society. Nobody likes to talk about this kind of stuff, right? It's a little bit triggering, or very triggering actually. But yeah, and that's the word. The reading, I would say the energetic reading, I would say there will be a divine counterpart reading that's like really intense that's coming up for Monday that I'll be posting, so keep an eye out for that. I will be pulling some cards for that as well. I do personal readings on Etsy and MyStar, so please check out those links in my description. Sorry, y'all. What a burp. Sorry. Confirmation burps. Just a great release. That was a great release. But yeah, that's pretty much it. God bless everybody, and yeah, God bless the God in you. Okay. Now we're just gonna take a deep breath in, and then now. This has been Sailor Readings.